Number one, where are you going to put your garden? How are you going to orient your garden? Now, we've made some really serious assumptions here. We're going to say that you're a beginning gardener and you're going to start with a 4x8 garden bed. We think 4x8 is really very good size because it's going to give you a lot of production over a long period of time, and it's not going to cost an arm and a leg to get started. That's the important thing to consider here. The question then is, how do you orient this 4x8 garden bed in your garden area? Is it a north-south orientation? Is it an east-west orientation? Does it matter? No. Here at the Urban Farming Institute, we have gardens that run north, south, east, west, northeast, southwest. We have them pointing in all different kinds of directions. The big advantage we have is we're close to the equator, so it really doesn't matter too much how we do that. The other thing you're going to have to think about is how much sun are you going to have in your garden area. And the minimum amount of sun is going to be 6 hours. You would be surprised the number of people that come in and say, well, gee whiz, my garden isn't doing very well. And we say, well, how about sending us a picture? And they do it. It's a beautiful garden underneath a big shade tree. Listen, you have to have at least 6 hours. How do you know you have 6 hours? Well, the secret right here is the thing called a sonogram. And it's simply take a look at your garden area. As the sun comes up in the morning, mark that spot where the sun first touches your garden. And you can do that any number of ways. You can put a chair there, you can put a stake in the ground, you can, whatever, some way to mark where the sun first touches your garden. And as the sun traverses to the west, we'll be able to see when the sun leaves the garden, and you want to mark that spot as well. And there needs to be at least 6 hours from that point of beginning to the point of end. And that's going to tell you how big your garden can be. And in some cases, that's going to be really, really big. But we're thinking that probably the best approach is start with a 4x8. Start small. I can tell you that many times your eyes are bigger than your stomach. And people are you're going to say, gee whiz, John, what should I grow? And my answer to you is, what do you like to eat? Tip number 2, don't overdo it. This is one of the most common problems we have with beginning gardeners. You know, you may find after you've done your sonogram that you have a huge space for a garden, and you simply want to say, well, gee whiz, I want to start this garden and I want to fill up this whole space. You know, that's going to take a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort, and it's maybe not your best choice. Look, think about it from the standpoint of gardening is work. Now, the reward is going to more than offset the work, but put your family in that context. What does your family like to eat? You can grow anything you like to eat, especially during this time of year. And tip number 3 is positioning. And this is so important. When you're thinking about your garden, whether it's oriented north, south, east, or west, it doesn't matter. The garden is going to have a north side. And you're always going to want to plant your taller plants on the north side of your garden bed. And these would be plants like tomatoes, for example. Tomatoes can be grown on a trellis. They can be grown in a cage. Another good one would be cucumbers. You could grow cucumbers that way as well. There are all kinds of different cucumbers. Corn, a lot of folks try to grow corn, and this, of course, is going to be very tall. And you want to put those on the north side of the garden bed so that it doesn't shade out the smaller plants that are going to be growing in front of that. For example, eggplant is going to be a lower growing plant, but it's going to be with you for 9 months. It's going to be a heavy producer. Broccoli is also going to be a lower growing plant. Remember, all of the broccoli plant is edible, including the stem. And how about cabbage? Cabbage takes up a lot of space. So you want to measure that out. And all of that information is on the back of the package of seeds that you pick up at your seed supplier. And just follow those instructions. And in some cases you may want to fudge a little bit, but that's going to be strictly up to you. There are 3 crops that we like to use here that we use as a cover crop, and this is an opportunity to really shade out the weeds, crowd out the weeds. And we like to use carrots, radishes, and turnips. And these are great cover crops. And what happens is we just sprinkle seeds all in and among the regular plants that are growing in the garden, and we just let them go. And it's an amazing sort of thing because you're going to have carrots, you're going to have radishes, and you're going to have turnips for almost the entire growing season. Why not give it a try? The gardener who fails to plan is planning to fail, and we want to be able to give you a bonus tip here. And as experienced gardeners, there are tricks that we've learned over time, and one of the things that we've learned very clearly over the years is that a successful gardener is the gardener that keeps records. You write stuff down, and we do that here. We'll take a garden, we'll lay out the garden, we'll actually draw the garden, we'll show usually to scale, and then we'll simply show where we're going to place these plants. And our gardening experience says, you know, if you need to have a 2-foot separation for a tomato, it's going to be 2 feet. Don't make it 18 inches, make it 2 feet. Draw that out, and that's going to help you space your garden effectively. So just remember, keep track of the time that you planted your seed. Take track of the time that you outplanted your seed. That's when your clock starts for days to maturity. So these are the kind of record-keeping things that you really want to do. It's going to make your job simpler simply because you're going to be a little bit more organized. And we can see that time and time again. The better gardeners are the gardeners that keep good notes.